I'm going to need it for the other door. Yeah. Now you go. You want me to go to the next door right there?
Good afternoon and welcome to Class Day. Before we get started, would the following students please come to the seats in the front row? Kai Chen of Pearson College. Joshua Ching of Ezra Stiles College. Johnny Dedio of Timothy Dwight College. Emily Hettinger of Pearson College. Paul G. of Morse College. Sean Liu of Grace Hopper College. Noah Millard of Silliman College. Emmy Pascal of Silliman College. Sean Pexton of Silliman College. August Rios of Timothy Dwight College. Michael Santos Polino of Saybrook College. And Noah Tershwell of Saybrook College. All right, seniors. So first of all, good job with the hats. Nicely done. I'm very impressed. It's a pleasure to be here with you today, with your families, your friends, your Class Day officers, my colleagues here on stage, the deans and the heads of the residential colleges, the director of athletics, and of course your speaker, Min Jin Lee. We're very glad to be celebrating with you. You may remember how 4 years ago I welcomed you here by talking about what Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie calls the danger of a single story. I talked about the importance of countering it by embracing humility, assuming good intentions, and valuing complexity and nuance over self-assurance and stereotype. I invited you to explore your own stories in their full complexity. Now you have tons of stories, not just big stories, but also quieter ones, the stories you formed while sharing meals in dining halls, while performing on stages and competing on playing fields, maybe even while folding laundry together on a Sunday afternoon. All your stories are what we are celebrating together here today. Class Day is your event, planned by you and really run by you. In just a minute, Sarah and Isha will introduce our speaker. I will be back after the address to recognize some of your classmates, and then we'll have a changing of the guard accompanied by the Glee Club when the platform party and I will trade places with your classmates who take the stage for the rest of the program. This is intentional, so when you see us leaving, don't worry. We're not leaving you. We're saying our goodbyes saving our goodbyes for tomorrow. For now, please sit back, enjoy being together, enjoy the hats, and enjoy your day. It is your day. Congratulations.
Good afternoon, class of 2026. I'm Isha Garg.
And I'm Sarah Bentkayet.
Welcome to Class Day! Class Day is a Yale College tradition that dates back to the 19th century when the entire graduating class, which was fewer than 100 students, gathered in a circle right here on Old Campus. They shared stories and memories from their bright college years at Yale.
Today, we carry that tradition forward, but we celebrate in a way that is entirely our own. This afternoon, you'll hear from our Class Day speaker, be moved by performances and speeches from your fellow classmates, and watch the class history video.
But before all of that, take a moment to look around you, at the classmates beside you. These are the people who pulled all-nighters with you, challenged you across the seminar table, made you laugh when you needed it most, and showed up for you in ways that you'll carry long after today.
None of us did this alone, so today is for all of us, and for the families, mentors, and communities who helped us get here. We are so glad you're here to share this with us.
We've been through a lot together. We came of age in a world that did not slow down for us, rebuilding post-pandemic, politically fractured, and suddenly contending with artificial intelligence as it rewrites the rules in real time. And somehow, in the middle of all of that, we were students and young adults, still trying to figure out who we are and who we want to be.
It turns out that the questions we've been living inside about belonging, identity, and what we carry from the world we inherited have always been at the heart of great literature. And few writers understand that better than this year's Class Day speaker. It is our very great honor to introduce someone who was in your shoes not too long ago, Min Jin Lee. Min Jin is an acclaimed novelist, essayist, editor, and critic whose work has captivated readers all around the world.
But before any of that, Minjin was a Yale student, class of 1990, who lived in Trumbull College. She grew up in Queens, New York, having immigrated with her family from Seoul, South Korea at age 7. She went on to attend the Bronx High School of Science, earn her degree in history here at Yale, and then study at Georgetown Law School.
Through all of this, it was storytelling that became Min Jin's life's work. At Yale, Min Jin fell in love with history and literature, ideas in classrooms not too far from where we're sitting today. She won 2 prizes for her writing in the English department and found inspiration for her most famous novel, Pachinko, following a Trumbull College tea.
Pachinko illuminates entire generations, cultures, and histories through the lives of ordinary people, tracing the journey of a Korean family across 4 generations. It became a National Book Award finalist, one of the New York Times 100 Best Books of the Century, and the winner of the Fitzgerald Prize for Literary Excellence. Her writing has earned her fellowships from the Guggenheim Foundation, the Radcliffe Institute at Harvard, and the New York Foundation for the Arts. She currently serves as a New York State Author Laureate and Writer-in-Residence at Amherst College.
Her debut novel, Free Food for Millionaires, was a national bestseller and acclaimed as one of the best novels of the year. Min Jin is currently at work on a memoir, a new novel in the final installment of her Diaspora Quartet, which focuses on the Korean experience. Her 3rd novel, American Hagwon, is scheduled for release this September and bound to be extraordinary.
When asked about returning to Yale today, Minjin said that our 4 years here shaped how she sees academic ideas from literature to politics, sociology, and ethics. But when life grew difficult, she returned to what her classmates, professors, and the people of Yale had put into her heart to carry her through.
We believe that's exactly what we need to hear at this point in our lives. Please join us in giving a warm welcome to Yale's own Min Jin Lee.
The ancestors thought of everything. Oh my goodness. Good afternoon. President McGinnis, trustees of the Yale Corporation, Dean Lewis, Provost Strobel, heads and deans of the residential colleges, Professor Allison Coleman, Class Day committee members Isha, Maya, Sarah, and Kevin. Faculty, administration, and staff, thank you, class of 2026, for your gracious invitation. And class of 2026, congratulations.
I can take it for you. Very good.
Let us acknowledge together the sacrifice, the dedication, and love of your parents, family members, guardians, and friends. We hold in our hearts every person who could not be here today because of work, illness, financial circumstances, or military service. In the past decade, I have lost two of my. It started fast today. I lost two of my brilliant college roommates before they turned 50. Yunwon Cho, Davenport, class of 1990. Kashka Kubsdella, Trumbull, 1990. This past December, we lost the environmental journalist Tatiana Schlossberg, Trumbull, class of 12, who served as the editor-in-chief of the Yale Herald. Among us gathered today, we have lost too many, too soon. However, may their lives and love shine through these beautiful graduates. On class day of 1990, I was sitting where you're seated, and I was set to go to law school at Georgetown. I don't know how I got in. No, truly. In preparation for this speech, I revisited my mediocre transcript. I had far more B's than A's. As evidence, I will share that I got a C in sculpture. And a C plus in modern Chinese history. Some of you will graduate summa cum laude, magna cum laude, or cum laude. My friend Neil and I used to joke that we graduated thank you laude. I feel seen. Okay. In your seat, I was not thinking about the brightness of my future, but rather my limits. It had not been my plan to go to law school. I was a history major, and I had wanted to become a history professor, but I didn't have the grades or the faculty support to get a PhD. And also at Yale, I learned that I had a very serious liver disease. And on my class day, I felt disillusioned with my political ideals, betrayed by my own body, alienated from some of my classmates, and I felt ready to leave campus. Above all, I wondered if I had wasted my 4 valuable years at Yale. I went to law school, and I got a job as a lawyer at a firm in Manhattan. And after working for only 2 years, I quit my high-paying job to write fiction. I was 26 years old. I had no idea how to write a novel. So it turned out that I had gone into the wrong profession. So obviously I had chosen the wrong major. So I would have to start at square one. Again, I asked myself, had I squandered another 5 years of my life? And from that moment on, it took me another 12 years to publish my debut novel, Free Food for Millionaires, and I was 38 years old. And when I was sitting in your chair, that was like 100. My second novel, Pachinko, came out when I was 48. That's like 110. So that's another decade. However, I had gotten to study the whole idea to study the Koreans in Japan when I was in college. So off and on, I've been working on that book for almost 30 years. My third novel, American Hagwon, will come out in the fall when I will turn 58. I look good, right? I love the class of 2026. And when young writers ask me, how should I become a novelist? Out of due consideration for their precious youth, my first thought is, shouldn't they be asking somebody else? Someone who is far more efficient and productive? So for most of my life, I have felt there was something really wrong with me. I was too slow. I was slow to learn how to talk. I was slow to learn how to make friends. I was a slow learner. I even take twice as long to eat my meals than most people. 3 decades, 3 novels, and I'm not a fast writer. And as a child, my father had named me Turtle because of my pace. At Yale, I did not know how to find mentors. I was not tapped by any societies or clubs. I said and wrote things which upset important people. And I was so dumb or naive that I didn't know who was important in the world. And it turned out that all the important people knew each other. So if you made trouble, and I did, everyone important or who aspired to be important avoided you. So it can be reasonably argued that I did not use my time well in college, and that I had missed my opportunities. And class of 2026, since last May, when I received the invitation from President McGuinness, I have been thinking about you every single day. I have been thinking about what your generation has experienced and is experiencing: a pandemic, deadly invasions and wars, mass school shootings, wildfires, climate change, inflation, the destruction of voting rights, AI, clip economies, attention economies, the inshitification of tech platforms, rampant economic inequality, lack of affordable housing, the rise of neoliberalism and authoritarianism. And then there's ICE. And Doge. The loss of reproductive rights, healthcare inequality, the specter of unemployment and underemployment, government corruption, the drastic cuts to scientific research, the death of local news and the loss of legacy media, the loss of cherished ideals and hard-won constitutional liberties for all people, but especially for members of historically oppressed communities, and the rise of distrust in each other as we approach our national semi-quincentennial. And now the hantavirus? Good fucking grief. You are the so-called anxious generation, a label I have been considering. To me, you are rightfully aggrieved. You have been forced to be alert. No, you have been forced to be hyper-vigilant, and you deserve credit for being the adaptive generation. The more we're made aware, the more we may be shaken. But in our most difficult trials, you and I cannot afford to panic. Rather, we need to make sober decisions by being steady and clear-sighted. But how? Often I'm asked, what advice do I have for young people? And I share this precept, which has carried me through every difficult question. Choose the important over the urgent. Choose the important over the urgent. A text message or a DM may seem urgent, but rarely is it important. Any addictive impulse feels urgent, but you know it isn't important, and too often it will lead to our demise. So fine, you say. So we know when something isn't urgent, but then how do you know it's important? And for me, I started to see what is important when I began to understand the concept of time. The ancient Greeks, that's right, Greeks. The ancient Greeks have two words for time, chronos and kairos. With these two words, I wanted to create a set of task glasses, a pair of time bifocals, so you can have two perspectives, both near and far. I want to take a moment to note that Benjamin Franklin the namesake of our young residential college, who received an honorary master's degree in Yale in 1753, is credited for having invented the bifocals. I wanted to drop some knowledge for Benjamin Franklin. In our era, when rapid change is our constant, I want you to have these time bifocals for you to either wear around your neck like a middle-aged writer or to carry in your breast pocket like a secret tool, so that whenever you face an unfamiliar situation or experience something you may not understand, you can put them on as the author and historian of your life. The first ancient Greek word, chronos, is a word for time, and that can be measured, like clock time. If I said 20 minutes isn't enough time for lunch, that time would be chronos. Chronos is the spine of storytelling. When a story starts, the clock starts. As the author of your life, you know that the chronos is ticking. The second ancient Greek word for time is kairos, which means the opportune time, a strategic opening, or in theology, a divinely appointed season. So when you see the romantic partner of your life, of your dreams, and you sense the right time to approach them, we're talking about kairos. The plural of kairos is kairoi. Each life is filled with kairoi. Chronos, quantitative, that's measurable time. Kairos, qualitative, opportune time. Class of 2026, I imagine that each of you is familiar with the pressure of Chronos. Nearly all high achievers are Chronos people. Will I finish graduate school in 6 years? Before I turn 30, will I have enough money in the bank? When will I get a partner? Will I give birth to a child before 40? Perhaps you have a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan. I can imagine that each of you is made hopeful and anxious by these Chronos-related wishes, because often there are benchmarks with the attendant deadlines. The compound word deadline even reminds us, deadline with mortality. We can feel the movement of the clock. In Homer's The Odyssey, I think we have a classicist here. Kairos occurs when the hero Odysseus takes any decisive action. When he tricks a monster, he outwits the sirens and finds his way home to his family. In a theological context, Kairos tells you what matters and when. And some of you may be familiar with the verses from Ecclesiastes. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to uproot. That time and time to uproot is Kairos. Graduating from college and going to the next stage of your life is Kairos. You and I are here in Kairos. And as an author, it's my job to have lots of kairoi. The main character, and I'm feeling a lot of main character energy here. must have big wishes, overcome challenging obstacles, and be transformed by Kairoi. When you're the author, you have to know ahead of the reader what those essential transformative moments should be, so the reader keeps turning the pages. However, in real life, when you're the main character, not always obvious what's critical. So, when I put on my dual perspective time glasses to review my college years, what seemed deeply painful or even insignificant were actually Kairoi. 50 years ago, in 1976, I immigrated to this country with my family when I was 7. Thank you. It was the year of the bicentennial. Then 10 years later, in the fall of 1986, I entered Old Campus for my first day at Yale. I was 17 because I was born in November and young for Scorpios in the house. I was born in November and I was really young for my class. I wore large horn-rimmed glasses that slid down my nose. I wore no makeup, and my hair was bobbed short, cut by my mother at home in the kitchen near the sink with a large, thin towel draped over my shoulders. I did not have much of a wardrobe. I was so proud to own one pink and white rugby shirt from Land's End, which I thought would be preppy enough for Yale. Later, I got a job as a sales clerk in a downtown New Haven at Ann Taylor to improve my clothing options and to fit in. My mother and father worked in Manhattan's Koreatown in a tiny wholesale jewelry store, maybe 200 square feet. And they sold inexpensive costume jewelry to small shop owners in the New York area and to street peddlers who sold their wares on card tables at a markup near the subway stations. Growing up and during college breaks, my sisters and I worked at our parents' store. Yale was the school of my dreams. I wanted to go to Yale because in high school, my favorite writer was Sinclair Lewis. That's one person, that's good. He is remembered, if remembered at all, for his social novels Main Street, Babbitt, Arrowsmith, Dodsworth, and It Can't Happen Here. Back then, there was no internet or Wikipedia, but in the back flap of my library books, Lewis's biography mentioned this college. And I wondered what he had learned at this school to write such important novels about social history and politics. I applied early, got deferred, and then eventually was accepted through regular admissions in April 1986. I graduated from the Bronx High School of Science, the greatest high school in the world, and became a member of the class of 1990 and was assigned to Trumbull College, the greatest residential college at Yale. When I arrived on campus, I sort of expected that Sinclair Lewis would be here. He was not. He had graduated in 1908. On my first day at Yale, my father took time off from work, and my mother stayed behind to watch the store. They worked 6 days a week, and they could not close the shop because their rent was high, and their customers, who had limited resources and replenished their stock daily, needed them to remain open. I wonder how many of you might have had family members or friends who could not come today because they're back home tending to their stores or restaurants or taking care of a family member. My father drove me to New Haven, helped me unload the car to my room in Durfee Hall, then went right back to work. And when I graduated in 1990, I did not ask my parents to attend class day because I didn't want to bother them with driving at night or having to stay at a hotel. It seemed like too much to ask my parents to use up 2 days for one graduation. They attended the commencement, but not class day. However, my parents are here this afternoon. On your class day. It may take 36 years, chronos, but it all works out, kairos. My parents did not know what I did at school, nothing. They were not involved in my classes or my major. They just trusted that I would figure it out. And in my sophomore year, I decided to major in history. In the summer between my first and second year at Yale, I went to Korea to study the Korean language at Yonsei University, my mother's alma mater. When I returned to Yale, I wanted to learn more about Korea. I took the only class that I could, which was a college seminar at Davenport taught by Dr. Haesung Chun Ko, who founded the East Rock Institute. She's 96 years old and she's here today. It was the only class. There was nothing else. Yale was supposedly world-renowned for its East Asian studies, but in 1988, I could not find any department course on Korean history, language, religion, or literature, nothing. How could any history or political science major understand the Cold War without knowing the history of Korea? Two American men, Dean Rusk and Charles Bonesteel, both only 36 years old. They had never been to Korea, but they had proposed the division of the peninsula at the 38th parallel in August of 1945. Over 35,000 American soldiers died in the Korean War. The division of Korea is also American history. I wanted a better education, so I decided to do something. Kairos. Dr. Ko said that for years, Yale students had been trying to get at least the Korean language off the ground. She introduced me to a senior, Harry Nam, Berkeley class of '88. Harry would be so proud. So in my sophomore year, I decided to start up the Korea Studies Task Force. Harry kindly attended meetings and served as co-chair of this task force before graduating in a few months. I wrote several letters. I drafted a formal letter to the chair of the East Asian Studies Department asking for classes relating to Korea studies. Then, I asked a friend at the Yale Divinity School to translate the letter into Korean. I went to Tycho and I photocopied the letters. I bought stamps for 200 envelopes with my own money. Then I called a meeting and gathered students and leaders from different student organizations who would support Korea studies. And at the meeting, I asked 200 students to send the letters to their parents, and then to ask their parents to send the letters to the college administration. And they did. Yale parents are very special. Things started to change. Parents sent those letters to then President Benno Schmidt, and some added fierce arguments of their own. I know, because I read dozens of them when I visited the archives 2 months ago. Here, I want to thank Mike Lotstein and Jeannie Laurie, the university archivists, for finding boxes of these letters. History is our collective memory, but it is interpretation based on evidence. Yale had been saving these primary documents. So class of 2026, keep your receipts. In the fall of my junior year, students and parents sent those letters, and the school announced that the Korean language would be taught the following year in the fall of 1990. A generous parent had pledged $100,000 to seed a 3-year pilot program for the Korean language. Harry Nam already graduated, so he couldn't benefit from the language classes, and neither would I, because the classes would start the year I graduated. The Korean language classes started in Yale in the fall of 1990. They have been taught continuously for 36 years. Out of the 55 languages that are taught at Yale, Korean language is the 5th largest language program by enrollment and the 2nd most popular Asian language at Yale after Chinese. The Korea Studies Task Force had asked for history classes as well. And in my junior year, I learned that Yale's first Korean history class would be taught in the spring. I signed up right away, and then I got sick. In high school, I had donated blood, and the Red Cross had written me a letter saying that I was a chronic hepatitis B carrier, so I should never give blood. In high school, I was asymptomatic, so I didn't think much of it. but during the winter of my junior year, it turned out that I was infected. Gradually, I recovered from the symptoms, but the doctor at Yale New Haven Hospital told me that it was more than likely that I would get liver cancer in my 20s or early 30s. I dropped 2 classes so I could stay in school, but I kept Korean history. I did not know how much time I had. Chronos. In the spring of 1989, a Yale history professor, a renowned authority in Japanese history, taught the Korean history class. 60 students enrolled, and I was overjoyed to take the class, which I fought to have. I attended every class, I asked questions, and I studied hard. When I took the midterm exam, the professor failed me. On the blue book, at the end of the handwritten essay test, the grade was F, and he wrote the words, "Ah me, what's to say?" That was the extent of his comments. No rubric, no guidance, and no respect. Kairos, what would I do? After the midterm exams were handed out, several students were visibly upset. I learned that many of the students who had failed or gotten poor marks were of Korean descent. I raised my hand in front of the whole class, and I asked the professor for a gender and ethnic breakdown of the grading. Kairos. At the outset of the next class meeting, the professor wrote out the grading data on the chalkboard, focusing on gender and who was ethnically Korean, which was over half the class. 15 students of Korean descent, or almost half of all the Koreans, received marks of C or below, and he failed 5 ethnically Korean students. After he gave out the grades, he speculated that the reason why so many Asians had gotten C's, D's, or failed was because most Asians were math and science majors who do not know how to write a history midterm. I was a history major, motherfucker. Kairos. I wrote a letter to the Yale Herald. Then the Yale Observer broke down the data and reported that the professor did not know what our majors were. And it was indeed incorrect to assume that just because you're Asian, that you were in fact a math or science major. The Yale Observer reported that it was incorrect to assume that math or science majors did not know how to write history midterms, or that a person in an Asian body should naturally know the history of her ancestors. After I wrote that letter to the Yale Herald, a fellow Korean American student wrote a letter defending the professor and called me paranoid. Another student wrote that I was a politically correct terrorist. I felt so stupid for having started the Korea Studies Task Force, and I was ashamed at having campaigned for a Korean history class. I had publicly disagreed with a powerful professor in the department of my major, which was not a strategically good decision. And not soon after, I received a death threat in the mail, which I brought to the campus police because I was frightened. However, from unexpected corners, I received profound care. I'm a Presbyterian, the granddaughter of a minister, but somehow I was connected to Rabbi James Ponnet, a university chaplain who wrote me an encouraging letter when he learned of the death threat. He wrote, "Your capacity to express outrage makes you a valuable citizen." Also, my dear friend Judy Ciolano, who worked as the grill cook at Trumbull College kitchen, invited me to her home, and she cooked chicken casserole for me. Judy's here today. Their kindness gave me the courage to remain enrolled in the class. 3 of the 6 students who failed the midterm dropped the course. I stayed and received a B- for my final grade in Korean history. That same semester, the second semester of my junior year, the head of Trumbull College, who was also the university chaplain, Harry Adams, invited me to attend what was then called a master's tea. The college tea featured a white American missionary who served the poor Koreans in Japan. He told a story about a 13-year-old boy, ethnically Korean child who was born in Japan. After his middle school graduation, the child went to the roof of his building and he jumped to his death. His parents were devastated. They did not know why he had committed suicide. So they went through his things and discovered his middle school yearbook. And in this yearbook, his classmates had written, "Go back to where you belong. I hate you. You smell like kimchi." And his fellow classmates, other middle school children, had written the words, "Die, die, die." I would never forget the story. Before that college tea, I had known nothing about the Koreans in Japan and how they struggled to survive in a colonial nation that had little use for them after the nation was defeated. There were no classes about Koreans in Japan, but I resolved to learn more about it. I resolved to do something about it. And my time at Yale had given me the valuable tools to teach myself the things I needed to know because of that college tea. Because of that college tea, 1 hour of 4 years, I have been privileged to spend decades of my life trying to understand the political nature of dehumanization, the power of resistance, the beauty of human resilience, and the much needed grace of strangers. I wrote Pachinko because I went to a college tea. At the end of my junior year, I submitted an essay I had written in a nonfiction seminar to the English department for prize consideration. The class was taught by the incredible writing professor, Fred Strebe. And back then, You had to submit your work without your name on it, and the professors from the English department judged it. And at the end of May of 1989, I received a certificate in the mail. On blind submission, I had won the Henry P. Wright Prize for nonfiction for the best described article upon a prescribed subject. And it came with a check for $165, which was the first time I was ever paid for my writing. In the fall of my senior year, I was lucky, so lucky to get into a hot American seminar for history with another famous historian. For my first paper, I wrote on Jane Addams's Hull House. I admired Jane Addams because she had helped poor European immigrants and led major social reforms in Chicago. The professor gave me a C, and when I went to see him during office hours, he said that I needed to get remedial help for my writing because English was my second language. This was the second professor in my department who thought I was a foreigner, who could not do well in the subject that I loved because I didn't know how to write or argue in English. However, the English department had just given me a prize for nonfiction. An award judged by Yale professors with PhDs in English who did not know the identity of the writer. I was 20 years old, and a doctor at Yale New Haven Hospital had already told me that I might die of liver cancer before turning 30. So I waited until the professor finished speaking, and I made a kairos decision, informed by my limited chronos. I knew I would not write another letter to the school newspaper. I faced that historian, and I said, "Professor, it's not that I don't know how to write. It's that you don't know how to read." I dropped that class. I completed the requirements of my major, but I decided not to apply to graduate school in history. I took more literature classes and college writing seminars, and in the second semester of my senior year, I submitted a short story, again on blind submission, for prize consideration to the English department. This time, a work of fiction. On commencement day, the day after class day, my fellow Trumbulians and I returned to Trumbull Courtyard, and when the awards were announced, I had won the Veitch Prize for fiction. Another check for over $100. Professors that I admired, in the subject that I loved, in the department of my major, told me that I was a middling student at best, and that I couldn't know how to write well. And professors who did not know me in the English department gave me prizes in nonfiction and fiction. Class of 2026, I want you to know this. I am grateful for all of it. The unkindness, the misunderstandings, as well as the encouragements, the unexpected gracious recognition, and the extraordinary tools of our Yale education, because all of it, the gaslighting, the generosity, and the development of our innate intellectual curiosity prepared me for my life after graduation. Right after college, I went to law school. And right after law school, I married my husband, Chris, when I was 24. Chronos. I met Chris when I went to a party with my friend Richard Ree, Timothy Dwight, class of 90. Kairos. I practiced law for less than 2 years, and I quit my job to write fiction. Knowing that my life would be severely curtailed, I decided that I would value my Kairos. My husband and I had our son Sam when I was 29. When Sam was 3 years old, I developed liver cirrhosis, a significant risk factor for liver cancer. I was 32 years old. I never had a drop of alcohol. The Yale New Haven doctor, his prognosis came true like clockwork. Kairos hit the fan. My gastroenterologist in New York put me on an experimental trial of interferon B, and for several months, I gave myself shots. And in that season of my life, I lost my hair. The blood vessels in my face would break every time I sneezed or bent down to pick up something from the floor. I vomited and had diarrhea so badly that I could not leave the house. However, the drugs worked, and I'm fully cured. My doctor said it was a miracle. Kairos means opportune time. And you could interpret this to mean that, like Homer's Odysseus, you must always be decisive, always canny to figure out how to get home. I didn't live that way. If anything, I've learned that Kairos happened in spite of me, not because of me. My part was to do what ordinary people can be expected to do, to address the important needs, to keep learning when you don't know things, to keep doing your share of the work, and to keep showing up. An author may choose the Kairos moments for her characters, but not always for herself. A historian can look back and spot them to find meaning. Finally, I want to share the most surprising things that I have learned about time. Time is not your enemy. Time is your friend. Any dream that turns real will become complex and uncertain. And that is when you need to stare hard at it and struggle honestly. Nothing was wasted about your time here if you let the brightest and the darkest moments teach you to struggle better with truth. Time is our teacher, and you, class of 2026, will not be shaken because you are well equipped for what lies ahead. Class of 2026, When you put on the bifocals of time, you will see straight through the fog of confusion, the fear-mongering, and the anxiety-provoking chaos. The world sometimes wants to shake us with its urgency, but I want you to know that you can be steady, wise, sober, and sure-footed because you are better prepared when you can see the truth and importance of that situation. Class of 2026, congratulations on your milestone achievement. We are rooting for you. We are proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Minjin Lee, for that extraordinary speech.
My name is Kevin So.
And, and my name is Maya Mosley. We are your Class Day co-chairs, and we are excited to preview the student portion of Class Day.
Class Day is rooted in one of Yale's oldest and most enduring traditions, in which the graduating class reflects on what their time here has meant to them. Every year, a group of students shapes this ceremony to honor the voices and experiences of their class. What you will see today is not simply a reflection of Yale's past. It is a reflection of who we are, the class of 2026, and what we have chosen to make of our time here.
And this class has been shaped by so many different paths to this moment. Some of us spent 4 years at Yale, and some of us came to Yale as transfers and Eli Whitney students. What we all share is that we are changed people at the end of our college journey. We came in thinking we would follow some plan, and then Yale happened. We changed our majors. We found communities we never expected to belong to. We sat in seminars that rewired the way we thought. We had lively debates in the Branford dining hall, and and, and common room conversations that quietly changed the course of our lives.
And we watched the world shift around us, politically, technologically, in ways that no orientation could have prepared us for. This class is defined not by any single experience we all shared, but by the fact that we were willing to be changed by each other. This is what makes the class of 2026 extraordinary. Not what we came in as, but what we became together.
As we celebrate today, we want to walk you through the traditions you will see this afternoon and the items you are carrying with you. One tradition is the planting of the class ivy, which began when the first vine was planted by Yale seniors in the class of 1852, near the wall of the old library, or what is now known as Dwight Memorial Chapel.
Around the newly planted ivy, each member of the graduating class would scatter a handful of earth. It was a simple yet profound gesture that rooted their class into the very soil of Yale and gave hopes that, like the ivy, their class might grow, endure, and entwine itself into the life of the institution. If you walk around Old Campus today, you'll find those class years engraved into the walls, each one marking the passage of time, the turning of classes, and the continuity of the Yale community.
At the start of the ceremony, every graduating senior received a gift bag. Inside, you will find a class of 2026 mug featuring our beloved mascot, Handsome Dan. You will also find a white handkerchief, a welcome gift from the Yale Alumni Association. By tradition, these handkerchiefs are waved during the final line of Bright College Years, Yale's unofficial alma mater. And you will find a clay church warden pipe, which for generations Yale graduates have gathered on old campus with these pipes to mark the passage from student to alumnus. Yours comes with bubbles rather than tobacco, but the gesture remains the same, a symbol that has connected Yale graduates for over 150 years.
Your bag also includes this year's class anthology, which Maya and I had the privilege of editing. The anthology is a collection of reflections written by members of our class, and you'll see that they write about identity and belonging, about gratitude and struggle existing in the same breath, and about the difference between who we thought we would become and who we actually are. And we hope that these pages bring you back to not just Yale, but the version of yourself who lived here.
You will soon hear from your senior class council officers, and then this year's Ivy Ode, which is an original composition continuing a tradition that dates back to the earliest Class Day ceremonies, which will be performed by Yara Shami, Ayush Iyer, Grace Halleck, Anjal Jain, and Naomi Jean Main. Your classmates Josh Bach, Amara Neal, and Prentice Patrick Carter will deliver the comedic reflection, and Shubh Gupta will give the class ovation. Towards the end of the ceremony, we will watch the class history created by Will McDonald and Daphne Joyce Wu. This year, it arrives as a tableau of our Yale experiences.
Before we turn the stage over to the students, we also want to take a moment to recognize classmates who are receiving some of Yale's highest student honors, the Class Day Student Prizes, which are about to be conferred. These awards celebrate excellence in leadership, scholarship, creativity, athletic achievement, and a deep commitment to the communities we have built here.
It is now our honor to welcome Dean Lewis and members of university leadership to present the Class Day Student Prizes.
Thank you, Maya and Kevin, and I would like to thank our Class Day speaker, Min-Jin Lee, for her beautiful and moving remarks. It's now my pleasure to join with Professor Panter Brick and Athletics Director Vicky Chun to confer student prizes. The Lewis Sudler Prizes for excellence in the performing and creative arts are awarded to two outstanding seniors, Kai Chen of Pearson College and Paul G. of Morse College. Kai graduates with distinction with a degree in art. They are a multidisciplinary visual artist whose work in painting, photography, and installation explores queer and non-binary experience. Using large format and pinhole photography without digital manipulation, they developed a distinctive technical and conceptual practice. As co-head of Yale Visual Artists, Kai organized a major open call exhibition and served on a faculty search committee, earning exceptional trust for their artistic judgment and leadership. Congratulations, Kai. Paul graduates with a degree in music and philosophy with distinction in music. He is an accomplished concert pianist who has launched an international performing career. He has appeared in major musical capitals, won the William Waite Concerto Competition, performed with the Yale Symphony Orchestra, and earned top honors in international competitions. Praised for his virtuosity, tonal refinement, and lyrical interpretation of romantic repertory, he will continue advanced study in piano performance. Congratulations, Paul.
The Nellie P. Elliott Award is given to a senior female sport participant whose excellence in athletics and life at Yale best represents the ideals of sportsmanship and Yale tradition. This year's award goes to Emmy Pascal of Silliman College. Emmy is one of the finest women's lacrosse players in Yale history, a key contributor to multiple Ivy League championships and NCAA tournament appearances. She earned All-America recognitions for 3 consecutive seasons and was named to the Thornton Award nominee list in 2026. As team captain, she led a nationally elite defensive unit and strengthened the program through leadership that challenged, supported, and unified her teammates. Congratulations, Emmy. The William Neely Mallory Award is given to a senior male sport participant who on the field of play and in life at Yale best represents the highest ideals of American sportsmanship and Yale tradition. This year's award goes to Noah Millard of Silliman College. Noah has been recognized as one of the most consequential swimmers in recent Ivy League history. An All-American in multiple seasons, he ranks among the all-time elite in distance freestyle events and earned the Harold S. Ullin Career High Point Swimmer Award. His leadership, volunteer service, and championship mindset helped build a lasting culture of excellence within Yale swimming and the New Haven community. Congratulations, Noah.
The Nakanishi Prize is awarded to 2 graduating seniors who, while maintaining high academic achievement, have provided exemplary leadership in enhancing race or ethnic relations at Yale College. This year's prizes are awarded to Joshua Ching of Ezra Stiles College, and Michael Santos Polino of Saybrook College. Joshua Ching graduates cum laude with distinction in both his majors, ethnicity, race and migration, and political science. He has provided principal leadership in advancing visibility, education, and dialogue for Pacifica and indigenous communities at Yale. A co-founder of teachings and a co-founder of Indigenous People of Oceania, he organized campus-wide teachings and led Pacifica Fest. His work includes facilitating the repatriation of Native Hawaiian ancestral remains, strengthening the Native American Cultural Center, and advancing institutional reflection through sustained advocacy. Congratulations, Joshua. Michael Santos Polino graduates with distinction in his major, ethnicity, race, and migration. He has shown sustained leadership in building inclusive communities at Yale. As a founding leader of Clarokesi and the Yale Undergraduate Black Pre-Law Association, he created enduring platforms for student voice and mentorship. Through leadership à la Casa Cultural, Sabrosura, and the Yale Interpretation Network, he strengthened cultural programming, intergenerational connection, and language access for Spanish-speaking communities in New Haven. Congratulations, Michael. The James Andrew Haas Prize is awarded annually to that member of the senior class in Yale College whose breadth of intellectual achievement, strength of character, and fundamental humanity shall be adjudged by the faculty to have provided leadership for his or her fellow students, inspiring in them a love of learning and concern for others. This year, the Haas Prize is awarded to Emily Hettinger of Pearson College. Emily Hettinger graduates cum laude with distinction in psychology and education studies and has combined intellectual achievement with sustained leadership and service. Through the Yale Prison Education Initiative, she expanded educational access for incarcerated students and led a large volunteer team. As a first-year counselor and two-term Yale College Council Senator, culminating as speaker, she advanced initiatives supporting financial aid, mental health, and access. Congratulations, Emily.
The Warren Memorial High Scholarship Prize is awarded to the senior majoring in the humanities who ranks highest in scholarship. This year, the prize is awarded to Noah Tershwell of Saybrook College. Noah graduates summa cum laude with distinction in philosophy and history and was elected to Phi Beta Kappa in his junior year. He has completed 40 credits at Yale, earning no grade other than A. His scholarly work demonstrates exceptional intellectual range, including advanced study in French and Hebrew and graduate-level coursework. His senior thesis, recognized with major departmental prizes, examines American Jewish exceptionalism in the post-war period and reflects both analytical rigor and historical insight. Next year, he will study at Oxford as a Rhodes Scholar. Congratulations, Noah. It's also Noah's birthday. The Arthur Twining Hadley Prize is awarded annually to the senior in Yale College majoring in the social sciences who ranks highest in scholarship. This year, the prize is awarded to Johnny Dedio of Timothy Dwight College. Johnny graduates summa cum laude with majors in applied mathematics and economics. He was elected to Phi Beta Kappa in his junior year and graduates with distinction in applied mathematics. He earned an A in all 38 of his course credits, including advanced coursework and research in physics. His scholarly work examines the intersection of economics and artificial intelligence, with particular attention to inequality in US retirement systems, and he will continue his studies in a doctoral program in business economics at Harvard. Congratulations, John. The Russell Henry Chittenden Prize is awarded annually for the senior majoring in the natural sciences or in mathematics who ranks highest in scholarship. This year's prize is awarded to Sean Liu of Grace Hopper College. Sean has distinguished himself by the scope and intensity of his academic program, earning all A's across 48.5 course credits, a double major graduating summa cum laude with distinction in both neuroscience and ecology and evolutionary biology, and a member of Phi Beta Kappa, he has pursued extensive laboratory research across multiple fields, culminating in advanced work in neuroscience, clinical research, and surgical oncology, including a publication in the Annals of Surgical Oncology. He will continue his studies at the NYU Grossman School of Medicine as a Vilcek Scholar. Congratulations, Sean. The Josiah Willard Gibbs Prize is awarded to a graduating senior for excellence in engineering and the applied sciences. This year, the prize is awarded to Sean Pexton of Silliman College. Sean graduates cum laude in applied physics and computer science with distinction in both, and is the recipient of the Yale Science and Engineering Association Award for Outstanding Undergraduate Achievement. His graduate level coursework in quantum information and algorithms has supported research producing doctoral level results, including co-authored work on fault-tolerant quantum systems and machine learning applications in industrial research. Alongside his scholarship, he's contributed meaningfully to teaching, student leadership, and science education in New Haven. Congratulations, Sean. The Alpheus Henry Snow Prize is awarded to that senior who, through the combination of intellectual achievement, character, and personality, shall be adjudged by the faculty to have done the most for Yale by inspiring in his or her classmates an admiration and love for the best traditions of high scholarship. This year, the Snow Prize is awarded to August Rios of Timothy Dwight College. August graduates magna cum laude with distinction in intensive sociology and has pursued a course of study defined by intellectual ambition and disciplined, engaged scholarship. His senior thesis, If Walls Could Talk, examines housing inequality in New Haven through the integration of theoretical analysis, statistical inquiry, and sustained field research on housing code violations and enforcement. Through close, sustained engagement with residents, his work brings empirical precision and lived experience into direct and consequential relationship. He will be pursuing graduate study in comparative social theory at Oxford as a Rhodes Scholar. Congratulations, August. Thank you, seniors. The full citations of for all of today's prize winners are available online. I now hand things over to your classmates. Enjoy the rest of the program.
I'm loved as I love, I am blessed as I bless. No more or less will be given to me. The measure I meet will be measured again. For justice is a law unto all the same.
I am loved as I love, I am blessed as I bless. No more or less will be given to me. The measure I meet will be measured again. For justice is a law unto all the same.
Then let my efforts all be to love and bless and
Strengthen the good in everyone. Wherever I am called, whatever I can do shall be done in the name of the good and true.
I am loved as I love, I am blessed as I bless. No more or less will be given to me. The measure I meet, measured again. For justice is unto all the same. Then let my efforts all be to love and bless and strengthen the good in everyone. Wherever I am called, whatever I can do shall be done. Then let my efforts all be to love and bless and strengthen the good in everyone.
Wherever I am called, whatever I can do shall be done in the name, shall be done in the name, shall be done in the name of the good and Father, to all the same. To all the same.
Good afternoon, class of 2026.
I'm Audrey Nanner.
And I'm Kobe Yang. And we are your co-secretaries.
I'm Daniela Chaklan.
And I am Akintomiwa Jonathan Akini. And we are your co-treasurers. Altogether, we are your senior class officers.
We would first like to thank all the family, friends, staff, and everyone else who have supported us throughout the past 4 years.
None of us would be here today without the community we've built along the way.
The last few weeks here at Yale have been unforgettable. From Dead Week to Last Chance Dance, we hope you've had the chance to savor every moment of the precious time we have left here together.
Thank you to our senior class council for putting in so much work throughout this past year and making all the events come true.
As our time at Yale comes to an end, I want all of you to remember the good and the not so good of this beautiful place. I hope that as you all move on to your post-grad plans, you remember that your Yale education did prepare you to become leaders in the world who are destined to make a difference. And although Yale's mission statement may have changed, your missions have and should not change.
And as you step into the world beyond Yale, remember that a closed mouth is a closed destiny. Don't settle for complacency or let comfort silence your questions and convictions. Keep pushing boundaries and demanding better from the systems and structures around you. Stay inquisitive, challenge the status quo, and become leaders in fields we haven't yet imagined. Use your voice boldly, use it wisely, and use it to shape the future you want to see.
It may seem impossible to challenge the status quo while watching doors get closed for others. It may even feel isolating, but the bonds we've made here are impenetrable. There is an unstoppable power in the community. While our time here at Yale is ending, the friendships we have formed are not. Remember the people you have met and keep them close. Help one another and be kind. Look forward to the 5th year reunion in 2031.
Challenge yourself in the real world. Yale has pushed us to wander farther and experience the unknown confidently, even when we're making it up as we go. To have the eyes to appreciate the little details to color life in ways you can't yet imagine. I hope we enter the world intentionally. We see it, and handle it with care. Enjoy life's many scenes and the people who accompany us. I can't wait to see what life has next for us.
See you at commencement!
तेरे नादीम ताना सत्य सत्य तेरे नादीम ताना सत्य तेरे नादीम ताना सत्य सत्य तेरे नादीम ताना सत्य.
Distinguished guests, friends, family, and class of 2026. Thank you all for sharing in the celebration of this incredibly special moment with us. A commemoration of 4 years well spent, committed to Lux et Veritas. Camp Yale, a week unlike any other. Wide-eyed frosh roaming magical buildings, sleepovers every day, new friends formed in the woods, some new beverages discovered. Some of us met our suite mates and made best friends for life. Some of us met our suite mates and thought, wow, I should look for a single next year.
Changed our lives, even though our discussion posts only quoted the first 4 pages. And then there was section, the great social experiment, where we perfected the art of speaking once and nodding aggressively for the rest of class.
But our learning went beyond the classroom, where conversations with friends in dining halls, common rooms, and courtyards pushed us to never settle for less than the truth.
Eres aquí, eres aquí, eres aquí.
But beyond truth, it was the light. It was the friends who were always there for us, who taught us to care and recognize the responsibility we have to one another. Now we carry that light with us in the way we listen, love, and stand up for what we believe in. Our bright college years won't just be a place we left behind, but a part of everything we do next. A conversation that we had till dawn.
A promise that we'd always keep in touch.
I'm afraid to leave, 'cause it's all I know. But the world is waiting, and I must go. All the joy and light, and all the tears I cried, every sleepless night, every long goodbye, I wanna hold on to it. Please don't let me lose it. All things fade with time, except the light we find.
President McInnes, Dean Lewis, Class Day Speaker Min Jin Lee, esteemed administrators and faculty, family, friends, and members of the class of 2026, we made it. My name is Prentice. I'm here with my friends Josh and Amara, and we are so honored to be presenting today's group address. Josh, that's you.
Yale University was founded in the state of Connecticut in 1701.
No, Josh, your line is Yale prepares us for the future.
But I did not write that.
Yeah, I know. You didn't write any of it. You two sat around while I did all the work.
Okay, first of all, rude. I made the slides.
Josh, this isn't like a presentation. There are no slides.
Okay, you got me. I forgot to make the slides.
Don't worry, I got this. You may now toss your caps.
Nope. Still, that's not it. That's not it. Just guys, this is gonna be fine. Just stick to what I wrote. What we mean to say is that Yale prepares us for the future. We don't have to do what society expects of us. We can do anything.
Yes, do whatever you want.
If something is hard, do something else.
If someone makes you write a boring speech, fade that.
Well,
you can do anything. You can do anything. Drop out! You still have 1 day left to drop out.
Okay, I would not drop out, but yes, the sky is the limit. You can have an impact on the world. You can run for office.
You can start a business.
Yes.
A business that finds cool new ways to steal people's data.
No.
You can do a Yale postgrad fellowship in France.
Yeah.
Where your only job is to smoke cigarettes.
I don't think that is true.
You can sell broken Ferris wheels to carnivals.
You can own and operate an Arby's franchise.
You can convert that Arby's into a casino and then turn that casino into a data center.
You can do whatever a vice provost does.
Okay? Or how about Amara here? Amara cares a lot about public health. Next year, she's going to be an accessible street pharmacist.
We prefer the term drug dealer.
Really?
Yes, or weed plug.
Can you say that?
Minjin, next slide, please.
Okay, there's still no slides. Guys, can we hit a little reset here? All right, let's just stick to the script.
Okay, well, you didn't consult us on the script at all, so.
Yes, I did. I sent 5 GCal invites. You said you had class, and then you posted from Roomage.
Hang on, I posted from the staple New Haven nightclub, Roomage.
Yes.
Ooh, I do not remember that.
Okay, and what's your excuse?
Sorry, coach called a last-minute meeting.
You're not on a team. You told me your favorite sport was heated rivalry.
Class of 2026, you may now come to the cottage.
All right. Whatever, the point is, we have run into so many challenges during our time here at Yale. We overcame those obstacles and carved our own paths.
Right. Instead of asking out the cute girl in my class, I carved my own path. I waited 4 years for the last chance dance form.
Yes. When it was raining, instead of walking to class, I carved my own path. I took an Uber to Mohegan Sun.
Well, sometimes you write a speech, and then people just carve paths all over the speech, and you can't even see the speech through the paths because the words, and that's no good. So,
dude, what?
None of that is in the slides.
There are no slides, guys. All right,
Look, man, we didn't ask to be grouped with you for this project.
Yes, you did. Last weekend in Myrtle, you sent me a voice message that said, quote, "I love you so much, Prentice. I wish we hung out more at Yale. Let's do the class day speech together. Courtney, get me a green tea shot. I'll Venmo you tomorrow. I don't have Zelle."
I do not remember that.
Well, I wrote some stuff, and if you weren't such a control freak, maybe you'd let us get a word in.
Okay, I'm sorry. You can read what you wrote.
Sure thing. Here's a witty and uplifting speech for a graduation ceremony at Yale.
Really? You wrote that?
Yes, according to Grammarly AI checker, I wrote it.
Well, if it's all right, I also prepared some remarks.
Okay, fine.
As I look out on this crowd, I'm touched by the connections I've forged at Yale. People so different from me, but so close to my heart. Friends with different passions, from different countries, and of different identities, like my dear African-American friends up here, who I never would have met without this beautiful university.
Aw, that's so sweet.
Did you say you'd never have black friends if you didn't come to Yale?
Yale is a magical place.
Josh is right. Yale brings together all kinds of people. We have students from the 1% and underprivileged students from the 2%.
Yes, we have people who care about their grades and people who secretly care about their grades.
We have people from New York and people who had to make friends once they got here.
Yes, we have people who like that one pizza place and people who prefer that other pizza place.
We have billionaires and ethical billionaires, because that's a thing now.
Yale is special. It's the only place where the a cappella kids are cooler than the athletes.
The a cappella kids are not cooler than the athletes, Josh. Who told you that?
Oh, my fellow Whiffenpoofs. Did I mention that last year I took a gap year to sing a cappella worldwide with the Yale Whiffenpoofs?
Not this again.
Nobody cares.
I think people care. All right, if you want to hear me talk at length about my gap year with the Whiffenpoofs, toss those caps in the air. Don't be shy, you can just go ahead and toss those caps in the air. All right, that was humbling.
Yeah, nobody cares.
Let's talk about something Yale students do care about.
Right, like...
a job with health benefits. Ooh, grade inflation. Ooh, vague new mission statement. Luxe Veritas, girl.
No, like something provocative and inspiring. Like
Yale is like a box of chocolates.
No, you stole that.
Yale is not a place. It's a people.
That is from Thor Ragnarok.
Light and truth.
No, what we're trying to say
Yale is like a group project.
No. Wait. Say that again.
light, and truth.
No. What Josh said.
Yale is like a group project.
Say more about that.
Oh, I was just reading from the slides.
There are still no slides, but you've got it. Yale is a group project. It's a challenge we had to face together. Even though we didn't choose who else would be here,
Okay.
we made the best of it together.
Yes.
Sometimes we were a little clueless, like Josh and Amara here.
Sorry, what?
Mine?
Other times we were the leaders of our group, like
me.
Sometimes we thought we had it all under control. But when things fell apart, we turned to our groups for support. The randomly assigned roommates, the teammates, the people in that club you took a chance on, the people you didn't expect, the people you grew to love and already miss. They challenged you. They also supported you and got you through. As Yale students, we know the most important thing about a group project. It isn't just creating something together, learning something new, or making a friend. Look at the person to your left, the person to your right, and remember the most important thing about a group project
Is that you get an A. Now toss those caps!
Still doesn't happen now.
Here's to the class of 2025 plus one.
It feels like everyone at Yale is known for something extraordinary. I mean, we have scientists curing diseases, artists moving people to tears, activists fighting for a more just society, and consultants who make PowerPoint slides. Hi, I'm Shub, and I'm known for something a little less conventional. 3 weeks into my first year, I accidentally became a meme. Courtesy of the world's oldest humor magazine, the Yale Record, I was randomly selected to have a class-wide party thrown in my honor. It was called, wait for it, the Shub Party. I did not ask for it, and I didn't do anything to deserve it. I was just a freshman looking for the TD laundry room when suddenly every single brick wall was plastered with posters of this face. A few days later, fake bodyguards showed up to my door, escorting me to the function. Strangers were asking me for autographs. They even asked me to give an impromptu speech. To prep for today, I looked back at that one, and my favorite line had to be, "This is Yale." I wasn't wrong. For 4 years, almost everyone I've met has asked me, "So what was it like?" Or, "Surely that was the peak of your Yale experience." And for a while, I thought it was. You see, when we come to a place like Yale, ordinary can feel like failure. We expect college to be a series of extraordinary events, a series of Shub parties. We think that the moments that matter are the ones that we can post on Instagram or send to our moms to post on Facebook. The senior thesis, the opening night, the Harvard-Yale game, which, by the way, class of 26, we went 4 for 4. And yes, those days were electric. We rehearsed them in our heads before and talked about them long after, convinced that they would define our college experience, define us. But what about all the other days in between? The Shub party didn't define my Yale experience. Tuesday did. And I know that sounds ridiculous. Tuesday's literally the most irrelevant day of the week. I mean, Wednesday's got wodes, Thursday's got society, weekend's got friends and freedom, and Monday just sucks. But Tuesday just happens. Here's what Yale won't tell us on the campus tour. The moments that feel important, the moments that shape us, rarely feel important when they actually happen. They just feel like Tuesday. They feel like sitting in a seminar you haven't done the reading for, pen frozen above a blank page, questioning your life choices. But somehow by the end, finding one sentence worth writing down. They feel like scanning the dining hall menu with hope, concluding that cereal counts as dinner again, but somehow still staying until close with your friends because the weekend debrief was too good to leave. They feel like late night walks through an empty cross campus, looking up at Sterling glowing in the dark sky and thinking, this is my life. On Tuesdays, a blank page taught me to be okay with not having it figured out. A bowl of cereal taught me that friendship starts with just staying a little longer. And a quiet walk home taught me that beauty is always around us, just waiting for me to look up. The Shub party made me known, but the Tuesdays made me, me. Those ordinary days were not the space between our lives. They were our lives. On Tuesdays, we lived in each other's common rooms. We saved each other's seats. We showed up late to everything but free food. We laughed at the wrong moments. We held each other in the tough ones. We found our people. We found our place. We became the class of 2026. And now, here we are. Today is not a Tuesday, and neither is tomorrow. This is an extraordinary weekend. These gowns and tassels mark years of dedication. The families around us are a reminder that we didn't get here alone. And these hats prove that even after 4 years at Yale, some of us still started the assignment last night. These are the grand moments we immortalize. But the day after commencement, when these tents come down and our Yale journey comes to a close, it will be a Tuesday. We will step into a world that expects us to do big things. I hope we do. But I also hope we remember that meaning is built in smaller ways too. By staying present enough to pay attention to what's around us, kind enough to take care of those around us. I hope we hold on to this in-between, the ordinary, the Tuesdays, that quietly made us who we are today. During my speech at the Shub party, I tried to make sense of why Yale had made one ordinary freshman feel so extraordinary. Today, I think I finally understand. Yale wasn't extraordinary because it gave us these big moments, but because it gave us the ordinary ones through which we became extraordinary people together. So celebrate. Take the photos, hug your people. Let this day be as big as it deserves to be. But when life becomes ordinary again, like it always does, don't forget to love it. Don't forget the Tuesdays. Class of 26, it's been the honor of my life to spend the last 4 years of Tuesdays with you. Congratulations to the class, our class of 2026.
Well, we're looking for someone with a lot of time.
Ideally, someone unemployed.
With no job prospects.
And and taking the easiest classes at Yale. We all agreed we needed 2 people with absolutely nothing better to do.
And that's why we asked you guys. Yay!
Thank you. But what are you guys asking us to do?
We want you two to make the video for class day.
It should really show what 2026 is all about.
Yeah. I mean, we can definitely do that, but we're not just bums who have nothing else to do. We're both film and econ majors. We're double majors.
You are?
Yeah.
Then you'll have even more time than we expected. Perfect.
What even is the class of 2026 about?
I mean, I guess no other class has graduated in 2026. We are the first class to ever do that.
That is true, I guess. I think let's start by interviewing people. Let's interview the cream of the crop of our class. Let's see if that gets us anywhere.
Well, you're saying a Rhodes Scholar?
No, I'm talking about someone who really has their finger on the pulse of Yale College, someone who we all respect, revere, look up to. I think we should totally interview.
So I'm Jack. I'm the former president of Eden. Thanks for having me. Eden is kind of a co-ed social space on campus. Used to be SIGAP. Disaffiliated to start letting women in and ran from there.
So where is Edon? Where is that now?
Sort of between space for the last little while. We were originally on High Street and then lost the house. One of the farther houses on Dwight. Also just the sublevel of it, the basement.
Well, that got us nothing.
Man, I really thought Jack was going to have something for us. I guess I'm just so naive and chopped.
Whoa, come on, Will. You're not naive. Let's think about what makes Yale unique.
I guess no other school has residential colleges.
Well, we don't really have time to interview people from all 13 residential colleges.
Aren't there 14?
Did you accidentally count TD?
Yes, I did. You're right. 13.
So what's it like living in Silliman?
Where do we begin? I mean, the courtyard, it's too spacious. There's just too much room to play.
Right? In the dining hall, it's always big. There are so many meal options. Why do they switch it up every day?
And don't forget about the coffee shop, too. There's just too many drinks. It's dizzying.
Yeah, and in the recording studio, why do we need a piano, 2 guitars, 3 bass amps, all in one?
So what's it like being in Trumbull?
Well, I was really excited to come to Yale until I was sentenced to Trumbull. But now I think it's super underrated. I mean, if we're on good behavior, we get warm food instead of cold gruel. And I've even heard that in the next decade, we might actually get lighting in the dining hall so we can actually see our food. So needless to say, things are on the up for the Trumbullians. Moorah! The only thing missing, really, is free laundry, but that's an issue for every college.
I'm Leo Greenberg, and I used to be chairman of the Conservative Party.
I'm Abhi Lingaradi, and I used to be chairman of the Independent Party.
I'm Abby Carpenter, and I used to be chair at the Progressive Party.
So obviously you guys have been really publicly feuding. Can you guys say one nice thing about each other?
Leo, you're a student here.
Yeah, Abby, you're pretty progressive.
Abby, I think you're open-minded.
Abby, I like that you like the environment.
Yeah, Abby, it is cool that you like the environment.
No, Leo, I really admire how much you know about political philosophy.
Abby, when I talk to young people, they really look to you as a mentor.
Leo, I think throughout these last 4 years and your time in the YPU and the Conservative Party, you've just set such a positive example. You're a great leader.
Leo, you're a good runner.
Abby, you have such beautiful eyes.
Leo, I can really tell that you run.
Abby, I really love spending time with you.
I've really enjoyed these past 4 years, really getting to know you more.
Abby, when I smell lavender, I think of you. When I read love poems, I think of you. When I see paintings of the Greek goddesses, I think of you. Abby, you are one of the most amazing people I know, and I can't imagine my time at Yale without you.
I suppose one thing that's really important for our class is print media. I just feel like it's really important that we have like a reliable source of information that's credible, that's, unbiased.
Yeah, I think we should interview a newspaper. Honestly, we can just do like the most important one, like the most influential, the most trusted, the most informative. I mean, let's just interview.
Hi, I'm Amelia Herman, former editor-in-chief of the Yale Record, Yale satire magazine.
So tell me, what kind of news do you guys focus on?
We like to make jokes about things that are relevant to students' lives, like how to tell your parents that you're still straight, or how bobsled don't.
What the You're interviewing the Yale Record? The Record?
So we're now sitting with the Yale Record and the Yale Daily News.
Yale's premier publication.
How would you guys describe what you do?
Well, for the Record, it's really about brightening people's days. Last cycle, we published 1,000 copies that reached...
We printed 30,000.
Okay.
And people actually sent us hate mail for not publishing enough because they want to read our paper so bad.
Are you guys interviewing the YN? YN? Hi, my name is AJ Nakash. I'm the former editor-in-chief of Rumpus, Yale's campus tabloid, and we published the list of the 50 hottest people on campus.
Well, we publish real journalism.
I'm Kristen. I served as the head of community for Maison, and what we do is we're a fashion organization on campus. So our biggest event is an annual fashion show that brings together New Haven, fashion designers as well as student designers on campus.
So, do you guys need models?
Yeah, we'd be so down.
Yeah. No.
So how does it feel to have beaten Harvard 4 years in a row at the game?
Harvard? What's that? Yeah, nah, sorry, I don't remember playing at Harvard.
What is a Harvard?
Harvard. That's not the school we beat 4 years in a row, is it?
Oh, that must be Harvard. Yeah, they were terrible. Embarrassing, really. Oh, right, Harvard. Yeah, those West Coast jokes had it coming.
That was really good. I think we should totally interview more athletes.
Yeah, I mean, we could check Morrison Styles Dining Hall.
Maybe. But where would all athletes spend all their free time?
You're right.
Econ 115.
Hi, I'm Hallie, captain of the volleyball team.
What was your proudest accomplishment as captain of the volleyball team for 4 years?
Well, we did win the Ivy League championship 3 times.
Did you guys ever go to March Madness, like the basketball team?
No, there's not really March Madness for volleyball, but we did play in the NCAA tournament 3 times.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. You're saying you never went to March Madness, though?
No.
So that's our rough draft. We still have to figure out how we want to end it, but this is what we want to show to the audience. We felt like the class of 2026 isn't one thing or one person, but it's the privilege of all these different people coming together and having this shared experience.
So what do you guys think?
Wow.
Good wow?
You guys did not have to do all of that.
Wait, what do you mean?
We just wanted you guys to just, make a montage with a bunch of happy photos.
Are you serious?
And maybe Time of Your Life by Green Day plays.
They play that at every graduation.
I think Time of Your Life would be great. I mean, it doesn't really matter either way.
Wait, why?
I mean, no one's going to pay attention to the video. Everyone's going to be hungover.
Okay. Sorry, we just learned that you can't actually have copyright music in this video, so we're just gonna figure something out, I guess. I don't know. This is so embarrassing. If you're a parent in the audience with an employment opportunity, please still hire us. We are very hard workers.
so quickly fly. The seasons come, the seasons go. The earth is green or white with snow. But time and change shall not avail to break the friendships formed at Yale. In after years should troubles rise to cloud the blue of sunny skies, how bright will sing through memory's haze those happy golden bygone days. Oh, let us strive that ever we may let these words our watch cry be, whereupon life's sea we sail, for God, for country, and for Yale.
Thank you to all the family, friends, faculty, and staff for being here today in support of the class of 2026.
It has been our honor to help bring today together for the class of 2026.
May the stories shared today remind you just how far we've come in these last 4 years.
As we say farewell to our bright college years, we thank you for becoming a part of Yale's living tradition.
Happy Class Day, Class of 2026!